Alright. Test, test, test. What's happening? Hello? Hello, hello? 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 What's up, guys? What's up, guys? It's Jack. Alright. Well, here we go. I guess I'll be doing some modeling stuff. So, a couple things, I guess, while we kick off the stream. Let me get through my brain fart real quick. Make sure everything's good to go. Are we streaming right now? I have no idea. There you go. Let's test real quick. Alright. Stream seems to be working, so that's good. Alright. Stream seems to be working, so that's good. Sweet, and the Discord's in there. Alright, folks. Let's kind of get started. It's not like I have a lot of viewers who watch my stuff anyways. So first off, if you look in the description for anyone who wants to get into modeling and you've kind of been following along with the Horizon Project streams, I know they've been sort of inconsistent lately, but you know, for those of you who've actually stuck around, actually kind of watched through this, watched the process, I'm starting to get a better grasp on mapping, so I'm going to show some of that here today. But if you're looking into getting into modeling for trains or content creation, but mainly modeling, go ahead and look in the description for a Discord link. That link provides a server that modelers can meet in, talk, do voice chats to teach people, you know. So in the server we have, right now it's in the early stages, but we have 3ds Max gurus, Blender gurus, and I'm sure we can get more people or more platforms supported, but right now the two main ones are going to be 3ds Max and Blender. And as people start coming into the chat, then we can start working from there. So, and I can actually create another role for people who are looking to learn. So, I mean, I could give a student role or something, but right now it's in early development. It's in an early development phase, but go ahead, join that server, chat it up. I'll try and get some people in there and just see how it goes. We're going to play it by ear, but hopefully that this will provide people with a resource to learn modeling, because I know 3ds Max, and especially for me Blender is the program that's like, whoa, scary. And that's just because I'm used to 3ds Max. But modeling can be very, very scary to people, and it can turn people away from wanting to learn content creation. So hopefully by providing this resource, we can help people kind of get a basic understanding of the modeling softwares that are available to us, especially free softwares like Blender. That way we get a little more third-party content support, because I know Trains is sometimes lacking in that department, especially with modelers. So to get more people on board, get an early start, and kind of help answer questions with everyday things that come up to a modeler, so you don't have to spend the time that I had to spend researching everything, that you can ask, hey, how do you do this process? And we can provide resources to help you out. So I'm hoping that that'll kick off. If not, it's no big deal, but we'll just kind of see how it goes. Play it by ear. So right now, we'll go ahead and get started with this. We're looking at the wheel for my Horizon coach, or for the bogie. It's a generic wheel, got some parts for it. So I guess the first thing we're going to do to get started here is just kind of talk about it. I did some reworking, actually got all this, the hub, the bearing cap made. I redid it so that it could be a little more, what is it? A little more accurate. Sorry, I'm at a loss for words. I'm not good with scripting things. I kind of go off script. So, we'll see here. I'm gonna show you kind of a render of what the bogie set looked like before, and then what it looks like now. So we'll kind of look at here. Here's the bearing cap I made. Super basic, super simple, and this could have worked fine. It looked good. But I was kind of looking for something more. I had a little bit of room to play around with optimizing it, so I was able to do a couple of extra details that I've been wanting to do, but I kind of held off on them. But you can kind of see more rounded, slightly more prototypical, I guess. But I wanted a more kind of three-dimensional. So with 3D modeling, you can go 100% prototypical if you're really that, anal about it, like I've been with every single bolt on this thing. Or you can take some artistic liberties. That's absolutely fine. I mean, there's a bunch of things that I did that I kind of saw reference photos of on like train models. I was like, you know what, this looks good. I like how the depth that this brings. So, go ahead, take ownership of your model. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. You can take a few artistic, liberties for yourself if you want, for the sake of optimizing, or for looks. Or you can go 100% prototypical. It doesn't matter. This is your model. Do what you want to do about it. People are going to complain, but you can't listen to them. They're just annoying. But anyways, so that's kind of what this looks like. That's what the old wheel looked like. And now this is kind of what it looks like now at this point. So yeah, I added a couple more details. And I cleaned it up a little bit, and I actually made these bolts 6-sided instead of 8-sided, which my bad. I don't know how bolts work sometimes, I guess. So I fixed those up, made them a little more accurate, and then I made these kind of nut covers or whatever. Not sure what you would call them. So we're gonna map it, because I have to remap it again for the 8th time. So we'll go ahead, we'll bring up our doodad here. So with a bogie, or with a wheel, just kind of, you're gonna run into some issues. You're gonna run into some, not issues, but it's a weird thing. So with a stationary object like a bolt, you worry about seam lines because you don't want an obvious seam showing where that meets together. But in the sense of a wheel set, there's no real easy way to hide a seam line. So you have to basically do that through texturing, which is a little bit difficult sometimes. But in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to treat it as a stationary object. That way we can just get a basic idea of how this is going to work, and we don't, introduce more problems. So typically for a cylinder, I'm going to find the edge that is the least visible, or that will be the least visible, and that happens to be this bottom edge right here. So I found these two planes, and I've already got them split up here, which is just fine the way it is. And this is going to be my seam line right here. So I'm going to take this first plane right here, and I'm going to select the next one, and I'm going to weld them together. These are your stitches. I highly recommend using these. Don't just flatten the map and then scale it down, put it in a corner, and don't worry about it. Take some time, take some effort. This really isn't a difficult process to do. So now you can see we got this section, and these bolder green lines on this kind of represent where the seam lines are. So I'll just select these two, and I'll take them like that. And then I'm just going to go all the way down the line. Quick trick, if you want to select everything, double click on a plane and that'll select everything attached to that UV island. Or if you want, you can select all this, and if I wanted to select this one, I just hold control, double click, and it'll still select that. So, little pro tip right there for a little bit faster things. And another thing I notice is with faces like this, sometimes you'll go to click them and you'll drag it accidentally, kind of like I did there. Pay attention to that, just in case. So that's the wrong edge. We're going to select this edge instead. We're going to select that. And now I think we're on the other side. We'll select that. And there you have it. That is this is the bearing, because I guess I did some research on this to figure some stuff out. So this piece right here is just the bearing, and then you've got the wheel and the axle. So roller bearings are kind of interesting. Take a look at that, the engineering that goes into them to get them to function. And I guess one of the big issues railroads are running into right now are these bolts backing out. So they've created locking mechanisms for that. So that's an ongoing thing, I guess, which is just kind of interesting. You don't ever notice these things unless you spend time looking it up. So definitely look at that. So what I did here is I did a quick planar map on this using, so if you come over here to edit UVs, you can select basically the direction that it's at. I have it select on the actual what it's facing, and then I just click this quick planar map and it puts it right there. So one thing that we're going to look at real quick is we're going to deselect that, go to our Text Tools application. Highly recommend you download Text Tools if you have 3ds Max. It's got a lot of features in it that are useful, like the align, the pack and sort, and using the checker patterns. What I want to see real quick is if this has any texture stretching, because this will tell me if I have to relax it at all. So we'll select this, and you can already kind of see there is some texture stretching, but I don't know the extent. Using this checkered pattern is great and all, but the squares are so far spaced out that it doesn't give you a really good idea of any texture stretching that might be happening. So, I mean, like this, I would actually be okay with this. But I'm going to go further, and I'm going to click it one more time, and I'm going to get this texture on it, this grid pattern. And I like using this because it really shows you stuff that you want to see. So everything else looks fine except for these two edges here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this entire thing, and I'm going to hit relax. And basically that relaxes those edges so they're not at a direct 90-degree angle, and that should fix our stretching issue. Just like that. Which is exactly what we want. So now this is a little more uniform, and it's perfect. So that is what I consider to be acceptable. Now there's, again, that's me. You might have something else, and that's perfectly okay. I've seen people who will select a bolt like this, and they'll do a quick planar map, and they'll call this good, even with the texture stretching, just because it's so hard to notice these things. So, it's to each their own. I like going kind of the extra step further with this, though, because it makes a difference when people, because I'm one of those guys, especially in train sim world, I like going up on all the details and I like looking at them because I just think it's cool. It's fun to look at. It's cool to see, what someone else has done. So that's kind of what I do. So that's why I'm saying I like to go the extra step here with these. So speaking of quick planar mapping, I think we're going to go this route with it, quick planar mapping, but we're just going to do a relax. And there's some inconsistencies with it. Let's see, if I go back to this, there's still stretching on that edge. Oh wait, that's because I did that. Okay. So this is kind of where you got to do a little problem solving for yourself. What's going to be acceptable and what's not. And I think at this point, I think it's safe to say that I could be happy with this, because mainly the textures that I'm going to be worrying about are the front face textures. So let me see if I can find. I don't have a picture of it, but I actually have a photo texture of the bolt faces just to add that extra little depth to it. So I'm mainly worried about the front face and this other stuff here. It's okay if it's a little bit distorted, just because that stuff it doesn't matter as much. Especially when you start scaling it down, it looks intense right now, but I mean, see, like if I select all this and I scale it down to where it's going to be on the map, that's going to be insignificant, that little distortion there. So I say just pick and choose your battles. You can go the route of like mapping the edges on like I do on some bolts, but I find this method to be a little bit quicker and a little less painful to deal with. So again, pick and choose your battles. Smaller bolts, you could definitely get away with this perfectly fine. So here's kind of an example of flatten mapping. Some people will just be like, all right, that's good, scale it down, and it looks fine, but then you run into those seams, and I'm not a seam guy. So we'll just go ahead. I'll place all these bolts together here. Let's see here. Trying to see if I could mute that stuff. Anyways. So we got that. It's pretty good. We'll take this triangle piece. And I think this is one I'm going to start out by simply flatten mapping it. And then I'm going to select the edge here, because if you pay close attention, you'll see that this edge right here isn't completely straight, and I'll just use the align tool. When you're working with maps, keep in mind that this is all pixel information. This is information that's going to be used in Photoshop, and I've probably talked about this a couple times already. But it works better when everything is straight up and down and not circular. That's why when we did the relax on these bolts, you kind of see this distortion on the faces. That's because those are pixels freaking out. Pixels are squares, so they don't like curves very much. But again, in this case, it's negligent. Or not negligent. It's the sword. It's insignificant. It's not a big enough issue to me. I mean, you probably would spend more time on this if you were working a high poly model on a video game or something. But for all intents and purposes right now, this is trains, and I'm an amateur at this. I'm not a professional modeler by any means. I'm just trying to get by. Um, so next thing is we have to map these edges. And first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the center edge here, deselect that. Holding shift sometimes works. Sometimes it doesn't. Now we're getting somewhere with it. Alright. So, these are the edges that we're going to be working with. So, I'm thinking, okay, I'm looking at the model from far away. Typically, you're going to be looking up, or from the upwards position, so you're not going to see under it. And the reason I'm saying this is because I'm worried about the seam line again. So I find these two, this is where I want the seam to be, because that's where you're going to least expect it. I'm going to break the stitching, and then I'll take this one again, and I will also break the stitching. And then I will just start here by restitching that same one together again. But, you know, do the process that works best for you. And again, take note how this whole thing is pretty much straight. It's not curved. You want it this way. This is going to be just pure pixels. I'm just going to set that below there. Also, this helps with space management when you don't have curves on everything and everything's kind of straight up and down as it would be. The next thing. So if I stitched this entire outer rim together, it would be this long line, and I'd have to scale it down significantly. And what I really want to do is not do that. Because again, we're looking at space management right now on this map. Because we'll have to see where I want to take this with sizing. Because I'm not going to have a folder full of 6 files that are 2048 by 2048. I could, but y'all would hate me for that. So, trying to optimize this as much as possible. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to take, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7. We'll just take a seam line right in between. Actually, you know what we could do? Alright, just checking to see that's all connected. Because I think this will work a little bit better for hiding seam lines. Break the weld. The reason I'm doing this is because they're hidden behind these pieces right here. So this actually works really good for seam line management. Take these and first off, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna save real quick before I do this, because sometimes you run into this issue where you go to scale it and then it says no. So give 3ds Max a little bit of time. It's got to figure it out. If it crashes, it crashes, and we're in this together. So I think it's done. Ah, it's done. Nice. So I got it a little bit closer. I wouldn't say it's perfect. I mean, what we could do is simply reflatten these. Okay. That's no big deal. It's just 3ds Max being stupid. As it does. And I'm just going to stitch these corners together. That way. Keep everything kind of somewhat together. Seam line management is a pain, but if you take the time to do it, it really adds some value to the modeling, or to the model. So something I highly recommend people do if you're taking a lot, if you're making something that's going to be a simple project. I mean, you can cut corners. You don't have to be Mr. Perfectionist with it. But, you know, at the same time, what is going on here? Oh, that's why. So I got these pieces here. But at the same time, it's just kind of like, if you want to make payware, I highly recommend you take the time to do that, because there are people out there who will tear you apart because of a modeling decision that you made. So, looking at all of these, see how they're curved? This causes some weird distortion. So I'm going to use the straighten selection tool, and I'm just going to straighten the selection. And there it is. Oh, that's the back. So here's another thing you're going to find out. Optimization is key with trains. So you can see this. I have this selected. Actually, no, well, oh yeah. So this is the back face. It's hidden, so you can't actually see it. So what that means we're going to do is we're going to save our progress. Collapse to, just hit yes. Alrighty. So I already got that back edge selected, and I'm just going to delete it. Because it's serving no purpose. There's no reason that your computer's just gotta, it's gotta go through and it's gotta process that information that no one's ever gonna see. So why do that? Make your model as optimized as humanly possible. Now, unfortunately, and I'm kind of in this rut too, is that the mapping process is a good way to find these hidden edges, but sometimes you don't notice them. Especially, say you're like doing bolt faces. So you're going to find from time to time that people will make a mistake and they'll leave an edge in there. But I mean, to find that out, you basically got to break the model. Or you got to be looking in something that can show a wireframe of the model, and I mean you're really digging deep for that. So you know, take it for what it is, guys. I wouldn't I wouldn't get too crazy about it. So, but definitely if you notice something, try and take the time to do that. I think one of the issues with trains when it comes to content creators or content creation, not creators, is that we will, what is it? We don't really have a set exact standard for content creation. And by that I kind of mean when you're looking at models that are made in Google SketchUp, you know, it's a polygon house. Those models sometimes, I mean, like a basic house can get up there into the almost as many polys as my Horizon coach is right now. Um, and that's not to diss people who use SketchUp. That's the program. That's how SketchUp works. It's the nature of the beast. And I don't get upset with people for modeling or using what works for them and what cuz content creation, we don't want to deter people away from it. We want people to kind of be like, "Hey, this is a fun thing to do. It's an enjoyable little hobby. It's something, for some people it's a job." You don't want to turn people away from that. So, that's not the issue. It's that there's not really a set standard for these for content creators to go off of. So trains for the longest time, especially its rendering engine, is just kind of not the best, not the greatest. It's not the worst, but you basically you're diving into routes that might have one asset that was completely optimized correctly, and it's sitting, like a basic house could be setting at 5,000 polygons, and that's perfectly, I guess, perfectly okay. I'm just throwing a number out, but 5,000 polygons for a basic scenery item like a house. And then another house that they use was made in Google SketchUp, and all of a sudden, that one's sitting at 20,000 polygons. So when I first got into content creation, I mean, I was going balls to the walls with, adding curves and smoothing things out and trying to just make everything crazy perfect. There's a fire truck that I'm working on, and this kind of ties into this. But I quickly found out that having a coach car sitting at 200,000 polygons isn't gonna fly, and that's the nature of the beast with trains. So you really need to, we need to be more kind of self-aware of the content creation limitations. I mean, even simulators like Train Simulator or Railworks, they have these caps that are set if you go on their Wikipedia page, and they also have them on trains on the wiki page. But the game can better support models with higher polygon levels in Railworks than in Trains. And to top it off, it's that people are modeling in everything like SketchUp, which can lead to issues with optimization. But the rendering engine for Trains it's not the best one to use, or it's not the best one. It works, and albeit it works pretty fine. It's getting somewhere now. But in the past, more aimed at like Trains 12, it was a nightmare to work in. But for Grand Theft Auto 5, you can easily model something that is, a higher polygon model and completely get away with that because the rendering engine or the game engine can handle that better. Plus, you have consistency with your creators for that game who kind of understand optimization for buildings, for scenery items, and other jazz like that. So we're doing the wheel face now, and I just did a flatten map just to kind of get rid of that. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to deselect this. So this button right here, ignore back facing, if I have it selected and I hit Alt, I can deselect this. Well, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But basically it doesn't go all the way through. And then if I use this, it goes all the way through. So it's weird. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I'll just go through and deselect. And I'm actually going to make sure I deselect what I want, which is mainly this edge here. And then I'm trying to think if I want to keep this edge right here. Brain says do it. So I'll do the quick planar map, and then I'll do a relax, and that'll get me set up pretty well. Doesn't look like anything too crazy is happening. And then, what is it? All this that was unselected, I'm gonna just do a quick flatten map. And again, I'm gonna treat this pretty much the same way that I treated the other one. I'm gonna find these two. I'm gonna break them off. Gonna break the weld again, and then I'm gonna just start attaching stuff, and you'll kind of see what I'm planning on doing here in a second. So this is going to be the tread. For the wheel. I'm going to select all of that, and I'm going to hit this straighten selection to make it uniform. That way when we go and apply a texture to it, that seam, we can get it to line up a little bit better and a little bit easier. And I'm going to rotate that 180 degrees, or 90 degrees, not 180. And I'm going to just bring this down. And I'm going to scale this I'm going to try and get it as close to the edge as I can. Right there on that side. And then I'm going to scale this selection up. Oof, that did not work the way I wanted it to. So I'm going to hold shift. No, it's not shift. Hold control. And just bringing it there. So that's where I want that. And you can kind of see where the texture will line up on that seam. It isn't perfect, because if it was perfect, you'd see a white line on both sides. That's not the case right now. That's perfectly okay, because what we've done is minimize that as much as possible. So we'll go ahead and we'll move that over here. Next items is this thing right here. Okay. Now all my emails are coming in. And now same deal, just gonna find the seam. This one doesn't matter as much because this is gonna be a harder thing to see. But I'm still gonna find the seam line just because looks like the way I have this set up is weird, but we'll still get that to work. Alright, so that's the axle portion. And that's just the back of that, so that's fine. Whatever. Mapping, flat mapping. Here's the rotors. So that's another interesting thing that I found out about trains when I was working on this. So long time ago I noticed coach cars had this like second wheel on the back of them. You know, when I was messing around in trains one day, and I was like, I have no idea what that is, because in my head I always thought the brakes worked as like on a freight car where you got brake shoes and it rubs up against the wheel, call it good. And then I started working on the Horizon coach car and found out that they're actually like car rotors where the brakes clamp in on that instead of on the wheel. So I thought that was interesting. Thought it was cool. So you learn a lot of stuff 3D modeling. So take that for what it is, folks. Go out, learn 3D model. Because if anything, you'll learn something cool, learn something new. So I think that's pretty neat. Leave a like if you think that was neat too. If you've even made it this far. And I know, 3D modeling, it's boring. Text tools again. And just align those. And that's the back face. Alrighty. Man. Thank you for the like. Um, so briefly, I'm going to go run. I'm going to go grab myself a drink of water, and then we will continue on. So just sit around for. Yeah. So just give me about a minute or two. I'll be right back, and we'll continue on with mapping, which is boring, I know. But just give me a second, I'll be right back. Hello, hello. I have returned. Hello, hello. I have returned. Hello, hello. I have returned. Oh no. You can hear that? I pulled up the stream on my phone to check it out. Um, Give me one brief minute here. Um, Also, again, if you're just joining us or anything, check the description. I've got a Discord link to a Discord server for modeling for trains, so this will hopefully provide support for up and coming modelers or people who want to get into content creation. That'd be a good idea. Also, just a place to chill, sit down, stream your work, and just be like, hey, what's going on, guys? Sometimes I find it easier to work when I'm talking to other people, just enjoying myself, whatever. Oh, man. So, here we go. Back to the grind. Okay, first things first. Let's get the wheel face put somewhere. is technically not connected. Well, I mean, like, this, of course, is going to be one of the bigger pieces. I mean, like, I technically could do this on one thing, call it good, and then do it on another, and then do the rest of the parts on another map. But I'm not gonna do that because I kind of want to limit that, and I think this is what works best for me. With jointed rail, I think the way that they do it is kind of what I was talking about, where I think the tread is on one map, and then the wheels on one map, and then they've kind of got the miscellaneous stuff kind of just jabbed in there. I don't really know how it works 100%, but that's one way of doing it. That's perfectly okay. The way I'm doing it right now is for my own sanity, because I don't want to have 100 maps going on. And the Horizon, I actually managed to put it down. I think I got 2 main maps, one with the main body and one with the underbody and some other miscellaneous details, and then the couplers, because basically the couplers are mapped separately. Let's see, how are we going to get these to work? I kind of want to scale them down a little bit more because we don't need them to be crazy, but you know, at the same time I am going to be photo texturing those just for added effect. A lot of the stuff I'm doing on this Horizon I probably wouldn't do on a lot of other models, but it's one of those things where I'd like to, but you know, sometimes you just gotta take your time. And my main focus has been finishing the Horizon project because this has been sitting on multiple back burners for way too long. So it's time to get this. Time to get this puppy done, completed, finished, finito, finere, something like that. I'm learning Italian, but don't ask me for Italian help. You can ask me for modeling help, but I'm not really good. So if you got Italian homework, you better find an Italian tutor. Buongiorno. Uh, and speaking of, you know, asking for help, there is a chat available on the live stream, so feel free, hit that up, ask questions. If you just want to talk about train stuff too, I'm always happy to chat. Don't let me talk to myself the whole time. And then if you're watching the video or watching the playback of the stream, kind of after the fact, well, hello, Narrow Gauge Studios. Thank you for joining us. If you're, what is it? If you're, you know, watching this after the fact, you know, still feel free to ask questions in the comments. I'm always happy to try and get back to answer those. In a lot of cases, I do still respond, even though I don't post a lot of videos. I still try and respond to comments as they come in. So there's that. Let's see here. I gotta scale this down to kind of match. We're looking for a 3 in the edge. So about right there, I think. Yeah. right there, but it doesn't really matter at this point. Because this will be covered up anyways. So I don't know why I'm going anal about that. Let's see here. And again, if you're interested in getting into content creation, I know I made a Discord for modelers, but don't feel like you have to be left out because you're not a modeler right now. If you're interested in learning or you just like following along, watching projects, I mean, I want to make the Discord for just general support for people to enjoy, have fun on. The Milwaukee GP42 pack from Jointed Rail. Now, how is that GP40 pack? It's been a while since I've spent any money at Jointed Rail. It's kind of weird saying that because I used to buy a lot of stuff from them. They made some really good models. They still do. They're getting better and better, but been too busy, very poor, not a lot of money. I should start a Patreon. Yeah, you'll get content, maybe once a year. But yeah, I am kind of curious to know what how the content is from Jointed Rail because it's been a little bit since I've been able to buy anything. I know they're making some good stuff right now. They're spending a lot of time on some of the older like SD units, so I think that's pretty cool. Getting some good representation there. Uh-huh. I get that. See where I'm gonna be able to fit this piece into. Man, I remember when Jointed Rail came out with the SD70 ACE, and to me that's my favorite locomotive. My favorite, one of my favorite locomotives. I'm a big EMD fan. They just have a lot of nice classics, but the SD70 Ace is just a cool looking unit. So I was like, yeah, that's definitely one I gotta get. I think the first one that I bought though was ES. It was either the SD70 Ace or the ES44. Don't quite remember. All right, so you know what I'm thinking. I'll probably scale this down a little bit more. don't think it needs to be that big. Oh, the Jeep 38. Not gonna lie, it's hard for me to tell the difference. It's been a while for me since I've done any major train stuff. So, I think one of the things I really like looking at now, I think it's Amtrak Guys 365 on YouTube. He started posting some really interesting videos on, you know, like engines of Amtrak. You all got to know what that is. I mean, that's a given, right? Let's see here, because I gotta figure out the sizing for this. So that goes not into it. Yep. The bearing cap right there. Really have been enjoying that. I mean, that's probably, I don't even remember. I think I was just going through some of my old files on my computer, and I was like, you know, I gotta get back into modeling. Gotta get back to doing that. And when I did that, I started kind of watching some of his videos on the engines of Amtrak, because like nice. I like the little history snippets of train stuff. It's always kind of been an interesting thing for me. But oh man, let's see. I have not seen that video actually. That'd be kind of interesting to look at. You know what I'm gonna do like this. So, the mapping process is basically, I think, one of the best ways someone explained it to me is it's one big puzzle piece. That's all that it is. And they're not wrong, because you're just trying to find out, you know, what's gonna fit better where on your model. So, I guess you could say I'm good at putting puzzles together, but I'm also not. I mean, I think for all intents and purposes, I think that's good for the wheel. Collapse to unhide all. And then I'm going to select my bogey set. And then I'm going to hide unselected. And then affect pivot center to object. This is going to be the fun part. And I'm going to actually try and rotate. Ah, come on, 3DS. Just assume it always assumes I want my rotation snaps turned off, but I don't. Because it's very rare that I ever rotate anything that isn't within like 45, 90 degrees, all within that stuff. So, have that set to 0, and then we will go to mirror, create a copy. And then one of the big issues that I'm running into is getting the spacing right on the trucks, on the wheels. I think I got it about right now. Let's see if I still have. Yes, I do. So I'll show you kind of what I did to get my bogey spacing. Hide unselected. So I made 2 objects right here. One is the representation of the track head, which is, well, let's see, your default shading, which is this piece right here, the purple piece. And then this is the distance from the rail head to the other side. I think I got that right. 4 feet, 8.5 inches. And if I kind of bring that roughly right there, yeah, that lines up. So I think I got it, but there's also a really good possibility that I didn't. But, you know, good enough. I can always adjust it if I need to. So the next phase would be to actually do the texture baking, the ambient occlusion map. But I don't want to spend an hour just sitting here putting you through that. Let me see. So what is this video? High Irons Burlington Northern video. Is it the 50-year Burlington Northern Railroad video? Because I'd probably be interested in looking at that. Be interesting to see that. Did I actually do this right? I think so. I think I did. I don't know though. Oh well. Oh man. Hold up. Let me go back to my live stream. There we go. That'll be a video I'll probably go look at. Then Yeah, so there's our wheel set. And then we got that right there. I mean, geez, the next thing for me would be to look at the next thing for me would be to look at what's it called? Animating these bogies. That's down the line. What is down the line? I'll probably actually delete that right there. Move that kind of out of the way. I'll do a little test render here. We're at 10 samples. That's fine. Render. Do a render. We'll see how this turns out. We'll see how it looks. And my computer's gonna catch on fire. Alrighty. Well, doesn't look too bad. I don't look bad at all. It's just nice to see this coach getting somewhere finally. Alright. Next order of business. I need to make two more glass panes. Pane is right. How do I want to do this? Yeah, that'll work fine. Alrighty. There. We made a window. And then I basically just stick it right there. And then I want it to be perfectly centered. And I'm just gonna make it a square. So not quite 3 feet. Let's see here. 2.5 inches. No, I meant 2.5 feet. Is that, no, not quite enough. Let's do 2.75 feet. That'll be perfect. So 2 feet 9 inches. Yep. Alright, there's our glass pane. Oh man, my entire apartment smells like it's burning right now because I just seasoned my cast iron skillet. Ooh, actually what I'm gonna do real quick, this makes it easier. Unwrap, unwrap. Where are you? Unwrap UVW. Alrighty. So that works. And that glass texture will probably be a little bit lower resolution. (180 degrees). Just bringing it down the train. The other one. Alrighty. And then I just attach them together. And there you have it. Okay. How long have we been going? I think next thing I need to do is there's still a couple of details I need to fix up, map them, and crap, almost done. That's the crazy thing. After 5, 6 years of working on this thing, I'm getting close to saying she's almost done. Almost done. That's crazy. That is absolutely just insane to me. Well, the modeling process is almost done. I mean, there's still a lot more to go. Alright, I gotta figure that out now. Why? Oh, where is it? Flip normals. Is that really what's going on? You like that better? let's just go check out the front and make sure we're good. Alright, so apparently I had them both flipped around. The front looks good, and the back looks good. Need to add chairs to the coach at some point. I'm gonna group these together though, because I kind of wanna see the coach together. Because let me tell you, it's kind of been a minute since I've had both of the wheels on, or both of the bogies. We are sitting if I delete all that. We are sitting somewhere manageable in our polygon level. That's nice. That is nice to know. I mean, like, I knew these were going to be decently high poly models, but oh man. Well, I think we made some good progress today, mainly getting those wheels fixed up, getting them remapped and put together. So I need to get those texture baked, and then yeah, just a couple more little things to tweak here and there, and we're gonna be pretty solid on this. We're getting to a good point with modeling. So super exciting to finally get there. Anyways, folks, thank you for joining me for tonight's live stream. I know mapping process is very boring. You know, there's a lot that kind of goes on. We've been streaming for a long time, so I appreciate those of you who stick with it. I appreciate those of you who stick to the very end or watch through, kind of skip through. I hope I was able to give some helpful tips with mapping. And if you got any more questions, folks, you know, those who are watching now or those who are watching after the fact, go ahead, look at the link in the description to the new modeling Discord for trains. It's a great, I'm hoping it'll be a great platform to get people into content creation, at least on the 3D modeling side of things. Provide them a good learning resource, a way to ask questions to people who have experience with the programs, and just, again, a way to just kind of sit down, unwind, and share some content, share what you're doing, get out there, whatever. So go ahead, check out that link. Again, you don't have to be a modeler to join. So if you're looking to learn, definitely check it out. So again, link is in the description. It should be a permanent link. If not, and it expires, go ahead, leave a comment on this video, and I will fix that for you. I'll help you get into it, and hope to see you guys around. And again, if you got any questions, leave a comment. Go ahead, subscribe. I know I don't post very often, but uh, when I do, if you're striving to learn, hopefully I can get better at making videos too. But until next time, folks, take care. Have a good night. Stay safe.